one of our favorites. He was my favorite, period, of having last year. And when we started having him on about, I don't know, 3/4 of the way through the season. Former Cincinnati Bengals great wide receiver Tim McGee started to join us. And Tim's done a lot of radio here in town through the years and dissecting the Bengals. And, I got to thinking, okay, schedule's out, offseason, all the different moves the Bengals have made. It's time to catch back up with Tim McGee and get his thoughts on all of this stuff going on. And he is kind enough to have said yes again. We're very, very grateful. Number 85, how are you, young man? You never aged a day. You never aged a day. I'm so jealous. You look so damn good. My hair's falling out. Whatever's left of it, it's white. And you just continue to look like you learn.
See, I'm like Bobby Nightingale Jr. I'm sitting here. He's in South Beach. I'm about 30 miles north up in Fort Lauderdale. So there lies the I won't call it problem. There lies the fountain of youth. I'm going to call it that, considering if I'm here in good weather and I got the beach, less stress, more smiles, and I get to tease all the people back home. Now I'm coming back home next week, but pretty much spend the winters down here.
Okay. Well, good for you. But I got to tell you, I worked as a college student for about 6 weeks. We were off during Christmas break, and I lived down there in Lauderdale with another buddy of mine. Tim, you can find something going on in Lauderdale if you want to find it. You don't have to look very hard.
Hey, I don't think you have to look for it. I think it'll find you. I think what you have to do down here, you have to dodge it. It's like no eye contact. You got to keep your eye contact at pretty much eye level and just move about your way. And when you're going down the sidewalk on the strip, you just, it's like you glance over or take a peek and then you get back in line.
Yeah, that was my problem. I took more than a peek and I never got back in line. Maybe that's why I'm sitting here now. I don't know. All right, Tim, I ask the question all the time, and this is a big picture thing. I ask the question all the time, as I think every single sports organization, business organization should ask, right? When you move from one year to the next, are the Cincinnati Bengals better today after everything that's gone on during the offseason? And I don't want to ask the question based on who started on their offensive line once they got into the AFC Championship game after all the injuries. I don't mean it that way, okay? I'm saying their team where they had that offensive line that started for 15 straight weeks. They had a healthy Chase. They had a healthy Boyd. They had a healthy Huggins, all that kind of thing. They were healthy on defense. Are the Bengals better today than they were at the end of last year?
I don't think so. And the reason I say that, they lost their third level of defense. And I think that is going to have a huge impact on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, yeah, they upgraded the offensive line in Orlando Brown Jr. And, but that's an unknown that's yet to be seen. But we know what those two guys, Von Bell and Jesse Bates, meant to that defense, and not having them, that's going to be that could be a huge negative impact.
Let me ask you this. I want to break that down position-wise. When you talk about two brand-new safeties, now Nick Scott has played in the league for a few years. He's been around the block. Started last year with the Rams. Not a ton of experience, but started last year. You have Hill, who's going to be starting back there for the first time this year. Bates and Bell walk out the door, as you just mentioned. Early in the season, would you suspect, I think the easy thing is most people say, well, that's going to be questionable against the opponent's passing game. Is that accurate, or would you be more concerned about that position as it pertains to an opponent's run game? Because the first two games of the year, they're going to get two run-heavy teams in the Browns and the Ravens.
I say it's going to affect them in the run game more so than the passing game. And here's why. When you look at Jesse Bates was your defensive quarterback. He put everyone in the right spot. He's, you hear that cliche. He's the coach on the field, players coach, that kind of stuff. But he really played that well, and he played that role very well. And with Lou, you get a guy like Jesse Bates, and you get Lou to think, okay, I'm very comfortable with this guy who's the only player on the defensive side that sees the entire field. He sees 10 players. He knows where they're supposed to be. Thom, I could not tell you from the passing game. I'll get to the run game. I could not tell you. You get one guy out of position, and people think out of position means, oh man, he's on the wrong side of the line of scrimmage. Of course not. He's on the wrong side of the football. Of course not. That could happen. However, out of position is just 2 steps. You are 2 steps up at the NFL level. If you're 2 steps out of position, you're in major, major trouble. So that's number one. As far as the run game, that's where Vonn Bell comes in. Vonn Bell was an excellent and will continue to be an excellent run supporter. So when you give up something in the pass game and something in the run game, although, like you said, playing Cleveland and Baltimore the first 2 games, they're going to be pretty much run-happy teams. More than likely, you're going to get a heavy dose of Nick Chubb, and Baltimore is going to give you Lamar Jackson, who can run just as well as pass. That could be a challenge. Early on in the season is what I always worry about any professional team, especially the Bengals, because when you do have the changes, if you get behind in the record, unfortunately for the Bengals or any AFC team, whether it be Cleveland, Baltimore, or Pittsburgh, the problem you face is now you're losing not only a conference game, you're losing a division game. So, I'm a little worried about the third line of defense.
Okay, well, if you were to look at Scott and Hill back there, which guy? I'm imagining, I have to believe, if for no other reason, experience, that Scott would have to become Jesse Bates. Is that fair to say?
Oh, no doubt. No doubt.
Okay. Well, if that's the case, go ahead, please. I want to hear what you have to say about this.
Yes, he has the experience, but not with that defense, that defensive coordinator, that defensive personnel, and inside that locker. That doesn't mean he will not be able to obtain it over a period of time, but not in that environment. It's like any other job. You have to go in and get acclimated. And once you get acclimated, you'll be more comfortable. But more so, are the other players around you comfortable? And when I mean comfortable, are they comfortable that you will be able to make the right calls and put them in the right positions?
I want to stay in the back end of the defense here for a second because we know Mike Hilton's coming back. He's been a hell of a player for this team since they brought him on. That's one of the best signs they've had, along with Bell, and they've had some other ones. They've had some good signs, but those 2 guys have really been good players for this team as free agents. Awuzie is coming back from an ACL, right? Eli Apple walks out the door, okay? Trey Flowers walks out the door. How concerned? They bring in Sidney Jones, veteran guy, highly touted guy at one point, got hurt. He started at various points in his career. And then they go out in the draft and they draft a safety and they draft a corner. What are your thoughts at cornerback for this team? Because there's some change there as well.
It's identical to the safeties. I understand the individual talent. I give individual talent a lot of credit. But the cohesiveness of your defense is not like the offense. The cohesiveness of the defense, you guys got to play well together. When we talk about the offensive line, we talk about them playing enough games together that they're on the same page. It's the exact same situation on the defensive side. When you have those corners and they're coming in, Awuzie, we talk about it coming in. What a great cornerback. We know what he's done in the past. But let's face it, ACL probably won't come back 100% of the player that we know. He'll probably be maybe in that 80 percentile. And that's, trust me, that's better than most corners. But the cohesiveness, the chemistry, the understanding of the concept of the defense, those are the things that I concern myself with the Bengals in that when I'm watching the game, and I see a blown coverage or a miscommunication or a false alignment, those are the things that drives coaches absolutely nuts because it's too tough of a football game to make mental mistakes. And that's why I compare that. The corners are no different than the safeties. And I think it's the whole secondary that we're going to have to worry about. Not to say they can't get it done, but those are areas of major concerns.
Okay. you have worn so many different hats, and this is why I love having you on, because I can ask you questions where you're able to put yourself in something you've done for a living, and at one time you were an agent.
Correct.
Okay, so now help me with this, because I had a big problem with this, and maybe when you put your agent hat on, maybe you don't. But I think so many things about life are not only the decisions you make, right, good versus bad, but also, your timing on those decisions, okay? Jonah Williams, the day the Bengals signed Orlando Brown Jr., and they didn't sign this guy to come here and play right tackle. The second they sign him, they bring him in to be the highest paid tackle in the history of football, okay? Unbelievable move for the Bengals. That in and of itself was just, I don't think anybody could believe it happened. And it did. So now all of a sudden that means that Jonah Williams, who is guaranteed over $12.5 million this year, is going to be asked to move to right tackle. Within hours after signing Brown, his agent comes out and is demanding a trade to get out of Cincinnati. Would you have handled that way if you were Jonah Williams' agent?
Well, it depends on what went on behind the scenes. How much conversation did I have with the Bengals organization, the management, and, of course, the coaches, and, of course, my client, which would have been Jonah Williams. Then I would have made a determination of what's in the best interest of my client. I'm not worried about the Cincinnati Bengals. They're going to be here for the next, they're going to be here when I'm long gone. But I would worry about one person and one person only, and that's Jonah Williams. So was it premature? They probably, I'm guessing, Thom, they probably had already anticipated that if something like that happened, what their next move would be. And for the betterment, remember, I personally think Jonah Williams struggled at left tackle. Now you're going to move him to right tackle. Well, again, I know it has the commonality of tackle. It's a tackle position, but it's two totally different positions with two totally different footworks. The footwork is totally different. So with that being said, Thom, I won't criticize him. I would pretty much commend him on getting the word out there that my client is available.
Okay, all right. So now put yourself in the position of being Jonah Williams' agent, and he's still here. He would have a choice to make. I either go play right tackle, try to win that job, because I think there's going to be some competition for that job, despite the fact that he's getting paid a lot of money. There's always a possibility you get into training camp, another team has a left tackle that they're not happy with, and they want to make a change. God forbid there's an injury, but those do happen in football regularly. Good Lord willing they don't, but they do. So, maybe there's a chance down the road, depending on what the Bengals see out of Carmen and see out of Lyle Collins and him coming back and all that kind of thing. Would you say to your client, hey, look, I know we want to be a left tackle down the road, but right now we got to be all in on playing right tackle?
I would ask my client that first and foremost, and I would gather by the information that's come out that Jonah Williams does not really, I guess, right tackle is not exciting him as far as his long-term playing career. So with that being said, I think the model's already out there and it's been out there. You look at a Lamar Jackson. I mean, Jonah Williams is guaranteed his $12.5 million. So, this would be a tough pill for most people to swallow. I would tell my client, listen, you are your CEO of your own company. You have to protect your biggest asset, which is your body. Go out there and protect your body at all costs. So, you're going to make business decisions from this point out. And we're in the same. Jesse Bates did it, and he was in a similar situation. So when a player is unhappy and they're going into their contract year, remember, our mindset as a player is when we go into our contract year, now we're going to get that generational wealth. It's right there. It's literally 6 months from us. It's 6 months from my great grandkids being financially secured. So you have to make business decisions. And I know Joe Fan find that very difficult. Oh, you have a contract, you should play. You're right. However, I don't know what world you live in, but when $12.5 million sounds excellent, great, phenomenal, I'll take it. Me personally, give it here. However, if I know I got another $100 million out there and I'm potentially leaving on the table, I got to tell my client, advise my client to make business decisions when it comes to playing the game of football. Make a business decision, and sometimes that means you don't make that extra effort that you would have if you were in a more comfortable position going after that something you so desired.
All right, now let me ask you to put back on your cap as a teammate. Okay? Big things are expected out of this Bengals offense. I maintain, and I get a lot of people that yell and scream at me here in the chat, even here in the room. I maintain the defense was good enough to win a Super Bowl last year, and with all the big names and the big stars, it was the offense that let this team down when it needed just field goals. It needed first downs the most, and this ballyhooed offense could not get it done. There's reason to believe they could be even better this year. So let me start with you on a couple of names here. If you're a part of the starting group of the Cincinnati Bengals on offense, wide receiver, which you used to play, you got to protect your quarterback if you're going to be able to catch passes. Should there be a legitimate competition at right tackle on who starts? Because I thought Carmen played pretty well last year at tackle. Granted, it was left tackle. He's got more the prototypical body type. I think he grew up a little bit last year. Collins is coming back from a knee. Should there be open competition for that position?
Well, I think the answer, it's a complex answer. And here's the way I see it. Number one, as they say, no player should lose their starting position because of injury because they're out there on the battlefield. So that's one aspect of it. Carmen played well. Okay, great. Now, how will Collins come back? Will he come back healthy? Again, when you have ACL injuries, I don't think players come back 100%. It's pretty much in, like I said, that 80 percentile. Should there be competition? There should always be competition. There should be competition at every position on every game. When you are in a position that the Bengals have, I have to give the most credit I will ever give the Bengals is where they started and where they are now. Now it's about depth. It's about competition. No one besides, per se, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and maybe T. Higgins and a couple other guys can really rest on their laurels of what they've done in the past. There's someone there that if you're not doing your job effectively over a consistent period of time, someone's there to push you and or replace you. That's a wonderful thing. But do I think it should be competition in that particular position? I think, if I may add, the better question would be who should start the football season off? Which person do they pencil in as the starter? That's going to be the most difficult question that the coaching staff is going to, because one guy saying, hey, that was my job and I was playing very effectively before I got hurt. The other guy said, dude, the last snap, I was playing great. How could you replace me?
Yeah.
Good problem to have.
Well, that's a great point. And you know as well as I do, money becomes a factor in this thing sometimes too. I mean, you're paying one guy $12.5 million. You're paying Carmen next to nothing, and Collins is a wild card in this deal. Okay, same question now. Much has been made of Joe Mixon. We're getting close to this June 1st deadline. We know some of the things. Mixon's been a hell of a player for this team. And up until this offseason, he has been a model citizen off the field up until this. And now this offseason has been this has not been a good offseason, regardless of what's decided in the courts. It's not been a good offseason. Just not good. Do you suspect, and again, I want to put you the agent hat back on for a minute. If they come to Burrow or come to Mixon and they say, hey, listen, man, we got to restructure this deal a little bit, you going to do it?
First, the question is why? Why are we restructuring? And I'm pretty sure the Bengals are smart enough to say, Katie Blackburn will say, hey, in order to sign T. Higgins and Joe Burrow, we need to restructure this deal. So you see how the framing is? The framing is, I need you to take one for the team, opposed to, hey, listen, we're kind of trying to decide on bringing you back or not. And an important element of that is going to be your willingness or unwillingness to take a pay cut. Well, now it's personal. Then as an agent, Thom, I am out representing my client in the event that something happens here in Cincinnati. Hey, you're on the phone with the general managers and, the players that be, or powers that be, I'm sorry. You're on the phone and you're trying to gauge the market for your client. Because remember something, if they release him, he's a free agent. conceivably he can get more money than he's getting with the Bengals and a longer term. So from a agent standpoint, we only look at it from the business element. We're not looking at it as in, my client's going to win a Super Bowl there. So, my client has a window of opportunity to maximize the dollars he makes in the National Football League. And that's our position, and that's our only position. All the other things, you hand the client the information and let the client make the ultimate decision.
You think Joe Mixon is the starting running back in Cleveland week 1?
Yes. I don't think the Bengals could really afford, from a pass protection standpoint, I don't think they can afford to take another risk in having another guy back there that may not be as proven as a Joe Mixon. And yes, he's been that ideal citizen up to this point. And, again, judge it as he may, he still is one heck of a football player. And, I think it's a great problem to have. The problem is you don't have P. Ryan. He's gone. He walked out the door, and now your depth is gone, and now there's a question there. And Joe Mixon probably should give P. Ryan some of his money, because if P. Ryan was still on the roster, that question you asked about taking a pay cut would have been a definite yes.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Tim McGee, you're always on your game. We thank you for your flexibility. We always thank you for your time, my friend, and we look forward to you getting back into town, and we'll get out to dinner one night, I hope, when you get back into town.
I'm going to take you up on that. I got the bill. All right, buddy. Thanks for having me.
All right, Tim. I'll see you later, man. See you. Have a great day and have a good weekend. What a great dude. I just think he brings such a unique perspective because of all the different things he's done. You know what I mean?